As I mentioned, my name's Tanya, and I'll be moderating the session and handling the Q&A. And our speaker today is Marloes Vooijs, and she is a PhD student at the Cornell Institute of Occupational Health at the Academic Medical Center in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And her research focuses on supporting work participation of people with chronic diseases, in which she aims to gather information on aspects and interventions independent of diagnosis. In her research, she also focuses on the role of the individuals with a chronic disease in their participation in work and how they value their work. All right, it's great to have you with us today, Marloes. I will hand it over to you.
Well, thank you for the introduction. At first, I would like to thank the Canadian Institute for Relief of Pain and Disability for inviting me to speak about my research, which is concerned about the work participation of people with a chronic disease. And I would like to welcome all listeners from, could be all over the world, Canada, USA, Europe, maybe even Asia. And first, I would like to introduce myself. Well, you can see my picture on the right. My name is Marloes Vooijs. As Tanya already told you, I'm a PhD candidate at the Cornell Institute of Occupational Health, and I'm part of a research team who also conduct research mainly on the work participation of people with a chronic disease. I work in the Netherlands, particularly in the city of Amsterdam, and I posted a few pictures of Amsterdam for you on the right, which is a beautiful city. And I work specifically in the department in the Academic Medical Center. This photo is actually made probably 2 weeks ago. It's one of the largest hospitals in the Netherlands. And in this department, the Cornell Institute of Occupational Health, we focus on research of people with a chronic disease or work risks of work which can cause diseases or illnesses of people working there. Well, as already stated, my research focuses on the support of people with a chronic disease in their work participation, in which I did research to factors which influence work participation. These factors we searched were irrespective of diagnosis, so factors which were experienced throughout various chronic diseases, such as fatigue, pain, but also social support, motivation to return to work, etc. The next step was to research interventions which enhance work participation, also irrespective of diagnosis. And we also conducted the research of what people can do who have a chronic disease themselves to participate in work, because at least in Europe there is an increased focus on self-management and also self-management in the participation in work. And we asked people what they already conducted or could do as a solution to return to work or retain work irrespective of their chronic disease. If you're interested, I reported the publications on the bottom of the slide. Well, today I will first give you a short introduction of working with a chronic disease. Maybe you already know it, but to level our knowledge. Then I will go further on my research, which is enhancing work participation, and I would like to end the presentation with recommendation for practice and recommendations for further research. So first, the working with a chronic disease, an introduction. Well, what is a chronic disease? According to the World Health Organization, a chronic disease is an irreversible condition which has a long duration and a generally slow progression. There are multiple definitions going on worldwide, but these are the main aspects of a chronic disease. Examples of a chronic disease are diseases such as heart diseases, which include a stroke, coronary heart diseases, rheumatic diseases such as arthritis, cancer, diabetes, musculoskeletal disorders such as neck pain or back pain, but also having mental disorders such as depression or anxiety, chronic lung diseases, hearing problems, or visual problems. And we see that this is also dependent of the diagnosis or the definition you will use, but that almost half of the population worldwide is faced with a chronic disease. As I stated, depending on the definition, this number variances, but it's quite a lot or a high percentage of people worldwide. This number actually rises because of unhealthy lifestyles and better treatment options in which formerly deadly diseases become chronic. And this number affects people in the working population. So many people of working age have a chronic disease. Also, the older you are, the higher the chance you have to develop or have a chronic disease and to be faced with comorbidity, so having 2 or even more chronic diseases. According to the World Health Organization, there are 4 types of chronic diseases. First of all, the cardiovascular diseases, such as heart attacks or stroke. Second, on the right, you will see the cancer, also chronic respiratory diseases, and diabetes. So these are the main types according to the World Health Organization. So having a chronic disease can come with various complaints, such as fatigue, pain, but also sleeping problems, low mood, slow start in the morning, as you can see in this picture on the slide, which may negatively affect performing work tasks. You can, for instance, have memory problems or low concentrations, which affects the ability to perform your work. We can also see from research that having a chronic disease will affect work participation, in that people with a diagnosis or a condition generally have lower levels of work participation. However, the reason we started our research is that many people want to participate in work generally and value their work, even though they experience limitations, as you can see from research of Waddell. And we also research ourselves the reason why people value work. And the first reason is income, but mostly financially, being financially independent. But also a large reason to conduct work is having social contacts, to make yourself useful to society, and also developing and using talents. We can see that other reasons are physical health, mental health. People indicated that they both increased because of participation in work. Well, to sum up, a chronic disease can negatively affect work participation. Not every people are limited by a chronic disease, but it can negatively affect the participation in work. But however, people generally want to participate in work, so therefore we focused our research on how to support those people and how to enhance their work participation. So secondly, my research, to illustrate the research, I use a case of Jill, who is a woman of 51 years old. She has arthritis for 5 years now, in which she experiences pain in her hands and feet. She has morning stiffness in that she has startup problems to make her joints warm up and so that she can start her day. She experiences lack of energy. Consequently, she has difficulty focusing and concentrating. and she has struggles with acceptance and coping with the disease. So, Jill works as a nurse. She has a good relation with her colleagues, a really formal relation with her supervisor in that there's no fight or argument, but there's no empathy as well. And fortunately, Jill has left work. She is due to sickness absence because she experiences difficulty in performing work tasks. She is not able to do her work because of the chronic disease, because of the arthritis. Oh, problems with, oh, yeah. So if you look at the case of Jill, there are multiple aspects or factors which may negatively influence her participation in work, such as limitations due to the arthritis. I already mentioned the pain in her hands and feet, which may cause her to experience difficulties in performing work tasks, morning stiffness, which can cause starting problems in the morning, problems of getting up, and that's difficult if you do morning shifts as a nurse, and also lack of energy. The relation with the supervisor may, which is really formal, may cause problems, and her struggles with the acceptance and coping with the disease may hinder solutions to enhance participation. So to overcome these factors, we can look at these are could be changed, and we could change them through the use of interventions. So we first looked at the question of which interventions can be initiated by others to enhance Jill's participation in work. And for this question, we thought of two types of interventions, which are firstly a focus on the person itself. I will show a picture. This could be management, like taking medication or manage the disease, coping with the disease, but also skills training. I've heard people talking about social skills training because they focus all their attention first on coping with their disease. I heard people talking about training to getting a job or job skills, but also like mindfulness, such trainings, but also interventions aimed at work could be used. Oh, I see now that the picture is not really clear, but we know that there are work risk or risks to the work environment which could negatively affect the work participation of either the general population, but also people with a chronic disease. You can see on the left on this picture well, a typical bad environment, and on the right a generally good environment, which is fairly generalized, but to make an example. And we did a systematic review, so the basis of this presentation basically, in which we searched for effective interventions which could be applied irrespective of diagnosis. And we saw that, and we searched for both personal interventions, work interventions. We did a broad scope, and we basically found that interventions aimed at work were effective. And the first results we found was, because we did a systematic review of systematic reviews, so the first review said that changes to the workplace in which equipment, work design, work organization, and work conditions were changed, and also cage management with worker and employer were effective on the return to work, as you can see on the outcome, and that workplace interventions were more effective than care as usual. With equipment, you can think of a specialized chair or technical tools for people to be able to do their work. Work organization is is the organization in which one works doing the communication top-down or bottom-up. Is it a stable organization? Is a reorganization ongoing in which the environment is not really safe when people are not certain of their job? Work conditions, is the environment good? Are there many noise, or have people complained with the noise or the temperature or people around them? So, and the second review showed us that an early contact is really important. We also hear that a lot in practice as well, but in research we found that having the contact as early as possible influences the level of work participation. And also the healthcare provider of the individual with a chronic disease having contact with the workplace benefit the work participation. The worksite ergonomic visit, in which one looks if the worksite positively benefits the diagnosis or the condition of the individual or fits the individual, is beneficial. And also work accommodation offer, in which one is offered a suitable job or workplace, and visiting a psychotherapist is found to be effective. So the third and the last review stated that work accommodations consisting of redesign of work schedules, for instance with Jill starting at the night shift or the afternoon shift instead of the morning shift, may be a solution. Also the organization, is it, as I stated with the first one, is it a stable organization? Is she certain of her job? Is it a good work environment? Has she to do a lot of bending, or well, is it a lot of noise or not? That's important for her. Is there availability of assistive technology? Assistance of others, social support seems to be important, or also offering help of colleagues is found to be important. And the last one, special transportation, so help from the work to give one transportation to the work is found to be effective on, as you can see, employment, which is defined as work retention and return to work. All these results can be found in my article on interventions, which is reported below. So if we look to the case, we can facilitate Jill, her return to work, by intervening on maybe lowering her work pressure, redesigning her work schedule, as I stated, maybe starting or doing the afternoon or the night shifts, dependent of her wishes. Also adding moments of rest, maybe making adaptations to the work environment. As a nurse, maybe it's possible to have tools in which her work for her hands gets easier, or maybe because she has pain in her feet, the distances of walking can be reduced. Also adding a case manager could be beneficial, who she can vent to if she experiences problems, and in which solutions together can be found. Maybe colleagues can help her in performing work tasks. I heard some people who I interviewed who stated that they swapped certain tasks, in that they stated that they could not perform a task because of the diagnosis, but they swapped or traded a task with someone they could do. And also implementing the interventions above as early as possible. So having the contact with the workplace. The supervisor can call Jill in what she needs and in what her wishes are, so that she remains to have contact with the workplace. As I stated, we did interviews with people with a chronic disease themselves, and which solutions they had to either retain their work or return to work. And I will go through them. Maybe we have solutions for Jill in the process. Well, they stated first of all that acceptation and coping, or acceptation of the disease and coping with the disease is important, and it seems quite like seemed quite like a first step in implementing other solutions before there is space. And solutions regarding this were starting from scratch. So first really do one task and then build up before doing everything you previously did. So you can gradually see what you're able to. Another person said that they focused on what they could still do instead of focusing what they lost in order to cope with their disease. And many people stated that they wanted insight in what they could do and what their limitations were, and they mostly started from scratch just to figure out what they could do, and when they touched boundaries they would recover from them and try it again, just to have the insight. As a quote, one said, "But you need to focus on what you can do rather than on what you can do." That's my motto in life. Just to support a second bullet point, all the results of this study can be found in the study I reported below. So another solution people use with a chronic disease is well, choosing to disclose their disease to the work environment. People with a job who feel safe in their job frequently disclose their disease to the work environment in order to have help and to have support of their supervisors and their colleagues. People knew what they were could expect of people, of the individual with a chronic disease. But there were actually also quite a lot of people who had a solution to not to disclose their disease, and those people were frequently not employed because they were afraid that they were not hired. So that could be a solution. Learning, there's also a learning and communication of boundaries. This really is like an extension of what I said first, like really getting insight in what you're able to, and then communicate these boundaries if you feel safe in the work environment and you disclose your disease to your supervisor and colleagues, so they can lower their expectations maybe, and you feel safe in performing your work tasks. The quote says, "So being open allows you to let other people see what you can or can't manage and what your needs are." Well, that's basically expectation management. And also managing your energy levels was a big point for people with a chronic disease. They experience quite a lot of fatigue or concentration problems, and they add up moments of rest by adding pauses in their work itself, or well, adding moments of rest in their personal life was also a big part of their well, work participation versus private life balance, in order to manage their chronic disease with their work. I think that this holds for everyone, but maybe people with a chronic disease do pay even more attention to this. Well, the next solution holds for people who disclose their disease. Well, just asking for help. Well, it seems like an easy solution, but it was quite a big step for people with a chronic disease, because they were not really fond about asking for help. They felt at first like giving in, but once asking for help, they found it as a really big support that people could actually do work tasks they couldn't do. I already explained it, I think, but the quote says, "Well, simply keep negotiating over the task to be done, and with a bit of help from your colleagues you can manage So just by trading and keeping in communication with your colleagues, the work tasks are done and divided over the various colleagues. A big solution for people with a chronic disease I spoke with is the self-efficacy, in which they believed and communicated their qualities to supervisors or even to their new jobs, in which the quote said, 8 years ago during a job interview, I said, I know perfectly well what I'm capable of. Once I'm hired, you will see that I'm an extremely good worker, except that in this situation I also have certain limitations. The person of this quote was hired after this interview, and he believed that believing in his own qualities and communicating these qualities to his future employer helped him in getting a job. So really knowing your skills and abilities helped people in retaining or returning to work according to the people I spoke with. So if we look to our case, what can Jill do herself is accepting the disease, in which well, people can, professional can provide support in the process of accepting her disease. Thereafter, she can learn to cope with the disease in getting insight in what she's able to do. She can, if she feels safe to disclose the disease, she can clearly communicate her boundaries to the work environment, in that she states what she can do and when she leaves work or when she needs moments of rest. She can ask for help in which work task she is not able to do, and she can communicate which work task she is able to do, or maybe trade with colleagues. She can ask her supervisor for work adjustments, also adding rest, but maybe there are tools available which she can use. And she can get to know her own qualities and can communicate those qualities in what her benefits are for the organization, and believe in herself that she is a benefit to the organization. So these solutions are maybe hard to find and implement on your own. So we also found or researched who can provide the support in finding and using these interventions. So I don't know where you are from, and I probably don't know all of your systems, by heart, but in the Netherlands there are two types of professionals, occupational health professionals, who guide and assess people with a chronic disease regarding their work participation. In the first 2 years as an employer or employee, you will deal with the occupational physician. He provides guidance for people who have difficulties retaining their work and also have difficulties in returning to work in these 2 years as an employee. After 2 years, you will see an insurance physician, and he will assess the workability and maybe get you money from the government so that you're able to be financially independent. They can provide 3 types of support found in our study. They can provide emotional support. People who we interviewed stated that a big form of support is really getting understanding and empathy and interest of others, not only from the professionals who I just spoke about, but also from the work environment. A quote states that I think it is important that colleagues have understanding for your situation. I really felt that getting empathy was really a big support for people with a chronic disease. People or the professionals can also provide support to just providing information regarding the disease and the consequences, but also on the different forms of support which are available in the Netherlands, and the forms of adjustments which are available, because the people I spoke stated that there are so many options available that you will lose track on what is there and what fits your situation. Providing information on governmental policies is a big part of information which can be provided through professionals. And they also stated that they would like to know which companies hire people with a chronic disease, just to have clear overview. People or professionals, but also the work environment, can really provide support by just providing or facilitating adjustments or tools, like trainings or facilitating an autonomy so that people are able to find and use solutions or implement them. Or maybe like technical tools or specialized chairs or technical adjustments can be facilitated through professionals or work environment. So if we, oh, sorry, I see here Becky, but Jill, if she can receive support from professionals, it's probably first emotionally. She can receive empathy and understanding for her disease and the difficulties she experiences in work from the professional first, but also from the work environment. Her supervisor can provide empathy in that she feels understood and that she feels safe to use and implement certain interventions and solutions. She can receive information on her disease and working with the disease as a first step to get insight in what she's able to and what she can do to optimize her work participation. She can also receive information about the rules regarding work participation, which are in the Netherlands, for instance, the 2 years being paid by the employer and then by the government, and information on the available forms of support in order for her to enhance her work participation. She can also receive tools, which I already mentioned, like technical tools or stuff like that to facilitate work or even skills training. So if we summarize the information, is that work-directed interventions can be applied by professionals to enhance work participation. This was the first part of this presentation. People with a chronic disease can play a role in their participation in work. They frequently, or at least the people I spoke to, they want to play a large part in their participation in work, and they can find and use various interventions to participate in work. But support from others may be needed to find and use interventions to enhance this work participation. So what can I recommend for practice? Well, basically just ask the individual what they need to participate in work. As we saw in the first part of the presentation, with what we found in the review is that applying an intervention consisting of multiple components focused at adjustment at work, tailored to the needs of the individual, can be effective irrespective of diagnosis. Apply this multi-component intervention as early as possible, but also look at the needs of the individual. Advise employers in giving the employee empathy and facilitate the employee in work adjustments. And what can individuals with a chronic disease do themselves? Try, I see that it's difficult for a lot of people, but a first step is to try and learn to accept the chronic disease and to cope with the disease. That seemed as a first step to make space to find and use solutions, such as believing in yourself, asking for help, and managing your energy, and other solutions I mentioned in this presentation. You can also see a professional who can provide support and information on the interventions which are available. And when you feel safe in the work environment, explain your situation to the employer, which can facilitate interventions for you. Well, at least in the Netherlands. Maybe in other countries it's different, but the recommendation for further research is that we know that there are multi-component interventions available which are effective. We don't know which specific interventions is effective for whom, so really focus on tailored interventions and how we can manage that. And we also need additional knowledge on the needs and wishes for individuals with a chronic disease, on what they really need and what they have on solutions, and really do a next step on the solutions I found. So what I would like to tell you, really simplified, but although people perceive limitations in participation in work, they generally value being able to participate. Interventions either found and used by people themselves or initiated by others can enhance work participation. Interventions directed at work are found to be effective, irrespective of diagnosis. Support and guidance may be needed from professionals to implement the interventions through people with a chronic disease. Well, that's basically it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me after this presentation or email me. You can see my email address in the slide, below on the slide. Well, that's it. Thank you for listening.
Great. Thank you very much for the presentation. That was really great. We do have a couple of questions. One is, do you have any recommendations for employees who feel or have seen and witnessed that their employer will discriminate against them if they disclose their disease? Both because there is research that shows that that happens, but also that there, say an employee has actually witnessed that happen to another coworker.
I have the instant urge to go back to the solutions. That's really difficult because I've spoken to a lot of people in which this happened to. Well, what I stated is that if he or she who asked the question is already accepted in the disease and cope with the disease is a big step. And maybe it's even, well, that's difficult. I think he or she is able to recognize herself if it's good to disclose the disease to the employer. And if it's not, then maybe try to adapt the work environment as much as possible. Find your way. I don't know the level of autonomy the person has. Well, it's quite difficult to answer this question, actually. Let me see. Yeah, also the belief in own qualities, but that's probably already done. Yeah, managing energy levels can be done if you have a level of autonomy in your work, but it can also be done at home. Maybe you can ask for help for your colleagues if they are safe to talk to. And the communication of boundaries can also be done without disclosing the disease. And if the environment is okay to well, communicate their boundaries. So not really a solid answer, but there's some things you can do to, well, participate in work. We'll go to the end of the slide now.
All right, great.
Oh, sorry.
Let's see. I don't have any other questions at this moment.
Okay.
If those of you online do have any questions, we still have a few minutes before we need to end, so feel free to type that in right now. I was also Oh, actually, we do have one here. Someone asking, talking about support, is it a good practice that the employer press the worker to return to work as soon as possible, or should this be avoided?
I think it's dependent on the needs of the person with a chronic disease itself, because I really spoke to a lot of people who, and that's why I stressed the empathy level so much, because they said the first thing my employer asked is when I could come back to work, and they really found that stressful. I think as an employer you can contact them and asking how they are and inviting them to do a cup of coffee of work, so because it's important to really remain contact with work. We see that if the contact is lost, that people have the chances are lower that people return to work. So not really stressing the return to work, but inviting them to talk to colleagues, come back for a cup of coffee, if that answers your question.
Very good. And then someone was asking if you are aware of or could share with us research on disclosure and that process. Someone asking if you were aware of or could share research on disclosure, that piece around disclosing illness.
I read some research, but I probably did not read it all.
Yeah.
I stressed both sides in the discussion of my third article. That's why I said feeling safe when disclosing quite a lot, because people are also afraid to disclose the disease.
Right.
But if you have any tips, please email me. I can also learn additional information on this.
Great, and I will include, I usually do some resources on the landing page for where the recording for this webinar and everything will be, and I will include links to your research articles that have been published related to this.
Nice.
That way people can access some of that as well.
Yeah.
Let's see, there was someone asking from your global research, do results suggest that the Netherlands is ahead in terms of having professional systems in place connected to employers for the support of chronic conditions?
I don't really know from research, but the conferences, I'm really curious from whom this question, from which country, but well, I know from colleagues that there's a lot of attention regarding research in the Netherlands of the work participation of people with a chronic disease, as well as in Scandinavian countries, and I think Canada as well. Well, those are the main countries at the conferences I go to. Maybe there's an increasing attention in other countries of the importance of this research.
Very good. The person did say that they are from Canada, so.
Oh, well, I think Canada is quite ahead too, so.
Great. In the case of an unreceptive employer, first pursuing a doctor's note regarding the need for accommodation and then disclosing, oh, I think this is someone more having like a comment on it, on the previous discussion. In the case of an unreceptive employer, first pursuing a doctor's note regarding the need for accommodation and then disclosing will provide the employer with more protection through the accommodation process. And legal protection can then be accessed under duty to accommodate before an employer can create other arguments for dismissal.
Okay.
So someone's saying that being a good process to follow if you're aware that an employer will not be open to accommodation.
Well, thank you for the comment.
All right. I don't have any further questions at this time, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you very much for the presentation and for your insight on this and for sharing your research with us. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for providing me with the opportunity and for listening.